Hello, I'm so excited you're all here today. Welcome to the webinar, Steps to Having a Rockin' Relationship as Baby Comes Home. So for those that don't know me, I'm Catherine O'Brien. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist here in California, and I specialize in working with couples and new moms so that they can be happy with baby. I really love helping them with this transition to parenthood. I know that there's a lot of joy that comes with being a parent, but I also know that there's also many parents that are struggling to manage their relationships now that baby is here. And there are moms who are struggling with anxiety and depression and feel it's just too taboo to talk about. But I like to give the tools and resources they need to help them feel better as their family grows. So that's what I do professionally. But personally, I'm married to my very patient husband, and we have two wonderful children. I have a actually he's 5.5, as he'll tell you, year old son, and an 18-month-old daughter. And in case you're wondering, yes, they were definitely the catalyst for me developing my passion to work with new parents. So I know what it's like feeling that there's just never enough time to do everything there is to do. Even now, you're probably sitting here thinking about all the other things you need to do, like laundry, getting dinner ready, maybe you're at work and you're like, oh, I've got to get that deadline done. Or maybe you're at home and you're thinking, I hope the baby doesn't wake from his nap or her nap, or maybe it's bedtime depending on where you're at. So if you've joined me for our webinar when we discussed the myths of motherhood, we talked about what happens when baby comes home from the hospital or the midwives leave, or etc. And I mentioned that when my husband and I had our son, I couldn't believe that they could just send him home with us. I personally had absolutely no clue about babies. I mean, I had done some babysitting, when I was in high school and stuff, but usually they're older kids. And other than what they taught us in the birthing classes and in books I read, but I was actually so terrified about having to bring home with him all day. I even remember contemplating at one point, like, if I could just have my mom keep our baby for the first 7 months, I'm good after that. I was like, this first 7 months, I don't know why I had my head would be so terrifying. But really, the truth is that even when you have experience and when you've read all the books and take all the classes, there really is no way to actually understand what it will be like when your baby comes home. It's definitely not all cooing and sweet baby smells. It's more like crying and dirty diapers and interrupted sleep. And this definitely puts a strain on a person both physically and emotionally, and I know it really takes a toll on your relationship. So today I'm going to be talking about what it's like to bring baby home and how that impacts our relationships with our partners. So in this webinar, we're going to talk about how you can find joy and connection in the midst of crying and dirty diapers. And we'll talk about 3 things that you can do to make a positive change in your relationship today. We'll also discuss ways to eliminate that conflict between you and your partner before those little irritations become draining arguments. And you know what I'm talking about. And I'm also going to share a powerful tool to help you feel better and connect with your partner better at the end of the day. And I also have a fun free offer for those of you that have attended this webinar. I know that there are far too many new parents out there that are experiencing the unhappy with baby married club. And I really want to give you some tools to help you grow closer and more in love with than even before you had your baby. Because yes, really, it's possible. And also, we'll save the last 20 minutes for Q&A, so be sure to stick around till the end. And I know you're going to walk away with at least one thing you can do today to implement in your relationship. So I talk to moms and dads every day and hear some of the same themes throughout my conversations. And I'm sure you felt some or maybe even all of these. You're exhausted and arguing with one another. Everything is so new, you don't know which end is up. The baby just poops, eats, and sleeps in no real order. Or you're irritated with each other over little things and you get snappy and feel completely disconnected. Or you're exhausted and isolated. You feel like crap and you don't have the energy to leave the house. You've never had a baby, so you don't even know where to go. You worry if the baby cries and needs a diaper changed while out and about. Where are you going to do that? You're exhausted and you're overwhelmed. There's so much more to do around the house. There's more laundry, there's more dishes, there's cooking, diapers, more laundry. Who knew something so small would need so much stuff. And you're exhausted and anxious. There are so many different parenting theories out there. You worry if you're doing the right one. One says let them cry out. The other says don't let them cry. You also worry about what types of diapers to use. Should you use cloth or disposables? One's easier on the environment. The other is better on time management. Or should you be making your own food because there's so many preservatives, and is it organic? Is it not organic? All sorts of things. Should you keep people away from the baby so that your baby doesn't get germs, or should you let them get close to expose them to germs early? And people don't believe this story, but I actually had a client tell me once, and it's not a joke, I'm not making this up. They were told that they should have their cat lick their baby's face to increase the baby's immunity. Seriously, there's so many different theories, superstitions, and myths out there. You also worry that you'll get too hot and sweaty when you wear your baby, that you don't want to do it, but is that bad? Or even you might think you're being bad for being too uncomfortable. So that leads to number 5. Moms are fearful of not being good enough. You don't know what you're doing, so you fear that your poor baby is doomed to have a terrible life. And all these other moms seem to have it together. And finally, you feel distant from your partner. You fear there's something wrong with you because you don't feel like you're even talking with each other anymore. Or if you do, it's to complain about not having enough help, or it ends up in a fight. And then you don't sleep in the same bed. And it seems that your partner would rather be at work than at home with you and the baby. And these fears can end up impacting every moment of your day and lead to your body feeling anxious and depressed all at the same time. So I'm here to say that you're definitely not alone in your feelings. And unfortunately, a lot of couples are unhappy in their relationships. The fact is that over 70% of couples are unhappy that first year after their baby is born in their relationship. And it isn't that people all of a sudden realize that they had a baby with a horrible person. Instead, it usually is that everybody starts doing what they grew up at home with their parents, even if they swore that would never happen. So if this is how you're feeling, you are so not alone. What this really is about is I do what I was taught and learned, and my husband, my partner, does what he was taught and learned, and we never talk about what we're going to do together to raise this baby. So that then leads to more arguing during that first year, less sex, and less time actually talking to and enjoying your partner. And I just want all of you on this call today to know that this is normal. So what do? Because one of the first steps is to acknowledge that these changes are completely normal and that they're happening. Even top researchers have noticed what works is small, positive changes often. I mean, we all know it's impossible to make big changes in 2 days. Well, it could probably happen, but eventually the old patterns start coming back. Kind of like when you lose weight, if you lose it all at once, it tends to come back even quicker. But if you lose weight more slowly, it's something that's easier to maintain the results. So that's what we're talking about today. How can you do small things often to maintain the results? So maybe you've already tried finding some of the answers. So what have you done? Maybe you've been to your friends, but they just tell you their own horror stories of doing things by themselves and kind of welcome you to that unhappily married with children club. So you think, really, it doesn't get better than this? Or maybe you read stories on Facebook or Pinterest. I guess they don't do stories on Pinterest, but anyways. Or maybe you've talked to your mom and she reminds you how she didn't have support from your father and did everything on her own because she raised you as a single parent, and you think, great, things are better than that, and then you feel guilty for being so frustrated. Or you search the internet trying to find the best thing, and it just makes you feel more overwhelmed about all the different things that you read. But it really shouldn't have to be like this. It doesn't have to be like this. So what if I told you that instead of feeling a lack of support, you could start feeling like part of the same unstoppable team? And instead of feeling totally drained and exhausted and like you're given to the point of completely giving out, you both could take time for yourselves for enjoyable self-care. And instead of feeling overwhelmed and running a household and feeling resentful about who's carrying the majority of the load, how about getting clear on a family routine that works for both of you? And what if instead of feeling that mommy guilt and comparing yourself to all the other moms and feeling inadequate, because I know you do it, how about learning how to hush that negative voice in your head? And instead of feeling insecure about your new post-baby body and not having a healthy sex life, how about learning how to make your intimate relationship a priority? Well, there's definitely hope, and you're in the right place. And I'm going to share with you now how to get there, and I'm also offering a complimentary relationship reboot phone session, so don't miss it, this opportunity. I would love to talk with you and your partner about how you can make sure to implement some of these strategies we talk about today so that you can have that relationship you want and deserve for you, your partner, and your family. So what are some of the things that we can do to get from a less than passionate place and get to the place where you fell in love and had this baby to begin with? So in order to have a relationship with someone, you obviously need to have some sort of communication. So one of the biggest struggles I talk with couples about all the time is that having a baby has magnified their not so great communication that they had prior to having a baby, because now they need it more than ever. So just how do you communicate in a way that you can actually feel supported, but also in turn support your partner? Well, there's this one technique I actually use with my own husband and encourage and coach my clients to use all the time. It is so highly effective and can be so beneficial. It's by one researcher called the stress reducing conversation, or you can call it a daily powwow or daily check-in. And this is something you should be doing on a daily basis. So sounds simple enough, right? So checking in with your partner regularly, making sure you're on the same page. And with this, you're also asking your partner to be your ally. It's about understanding each other and not about giving each other advice. So exactly how do you go about doing this? First of all, you're going to each take turns being the speaker and the listener. As a speaker, you can think of a stressful situation that's going on in your life. For example, maybe an upcoming visit from relatives or a difficult conversation you need to have with a coworker or your nanny or child care worker. And then you discuss the stress with your partner. You describe the circumstances, your feelings, etc. And as the listener, what you're going to do is listen, right? Which sounds easy enough, but sometimes I think can be even more challenging than being the one that's speaking. Because you're not going to try to solve this problem for your partner. You're just going to give them support by showing genuine interest in them, in your baby, offering support by a we against others, showing them affection. And you also want to join in their emotions by showing interest and sharing in any excitement they might have. But what you want to really make sure that you don't do is ignore your partner or fail to respond. So don't get defensive or criticize them or side with the enemy. So if they tell you something about, like say they're having a conflict with a coworker, you don't want to be like, well, what did you do to upset them or something like that. You want to make sure you're having this conversation without distraction either. For example, don't be looking at your phone or checking emails or on Facebook or watching television. You want to definitely be giving each other your undivided time. So then you're going to switch and give your partner time to share and listen to them. So this should be taking you somewhere between 20 and 25 minutes. Ideally, you each get at least 10 minutes to talk. I know sometimes, especially when we have little babies at home, it's hard to take that much time. So if you can be making 10 to 15 minutes a day, it's definitely going to be impactful. And this conversation doesn't necessarily have to be about a negative situation. It can be an opportunity to talk about what is going on in your day or discuss upcoming plans or issues. It could be about good stuff that's going on with your children. But what is important is that you're giving that time and attention to each other, you're supporting each other, and in the end, you're really strengthening that mutual love and trust for each other. which is really, really important in your relationship. So by having that daily powwow, this also gives you an opportunity to identify your moods. Are you irritable, frustrated, overwhelmed? And your needs. Do you need to get a nap, get your hair done, go out on a date? So one of the things I know people struggle with is being direct. And you need to be direct with what you want. For example, you might say to your partner, "You'd think you'd call me to see how my day is going." So in this example, what you're really longing for is connection, but you're expressing it in an irritable, negative way, and probably because you're stressed or disappointed. So instead, you could say something like, "I would really like it if you would call me during the day." We forget that golden rule oftentimes, especially if we're exhausted, to treat others the way you want to be treated. And so we end up lashing out or speaking negatively to our partners, like in that example. And we're treating others the way we feel we're being treated. But that just perpetuates that cycle. So the way to break it is to speak directly and nicely in the way you would want to be talked to. So remember that the positive change I'm talking about starts with us. So we think our partners are mind readers, and they're not. And we often have to ask for what we need, and that's okay. For example, my son's karate instructor often says, "You got to give something before you take." So say, "Thank you for calling me today from work. I really appreciate it and hope that you can call me again tomorrow." And if you change how you interact with them, they will change how they interact with you. And most oftentimes for the better. So there, number 2 is you definitely want to identify those signs of neglect and fill your own buckets. So moving on to step number 3. You want to identify your moods and take steps to move through them. So this next one can be really hard for people to do, especially moms. But it's important that you take some time for yourself. And this will help you identify the place that you're in, your mood, and then you can start to take steps to feel better. So the obvious things that you can do for yourself are not always the easiest, especially the younger your child is. But make sure that you're getting a break to sleep, to shower, to eat. And I love this quote by Audre Lorde, who was a writer and civil rights activist. It says, "I have come to believe that caring for myself is not self-indulgent. Caring for myself is an act of survival." So I'm going to read that again. "I have come to believe that caring for myself is not self-indulgent. Caring for myself is an act of survival." This is so true because we can't take care of others if we're not taking care of ourselves. And remember, we're modeling this behavior for our children too, so that they grow up and know how to take care of themselves. So what are some of the things that you can be doing? Well, first of all, I think resting as much as possible, as much as you can, especially the younger your child is. Even though they don't do a lot physically, it takes a lot to be feeding them, changing them, putting them to bed, and they just go through their sleep cycles so much faster. So when they're sleeping, you need to sleep, as I say. And I know, like especially I'll have moms that say, "Well, I can't sleep, I can't go to sleep." But that doesn't mean you need to be up doing laundry. That means laying down, resting. Maybe it helps you if you read a book. I'm going to tell you to avoid TV or looking on your phone and stuff, because that sometimes just stimulates your brain and makes it harder to fall asleep. So do something that is restful. Maybe you just close your eyes and do some deep breathing or meditation or something like that, just relaxing. If you can't fall asleep, just relax. And then also including some physical activity, such as walking with your baby into your daily routine, eating healthy foods, plenty of fruits, vegetables, and whole grains. Avoid alcohol, and then getting dressed. Sometimes it's a matter of getting up and putting on a new pair of yoga pants, but as long as they're clean, like just changing of clothes if you don't have time to get a shower is sometimes can be feel good. And then leave the house. Maybe you plan, one outing a day, whether it's like, okay, going for a walk around the neighborhood, or maybe going to, a new mom's group, or to a library story time. I know at least the libraries in my area, we have baby lap sit story times. So hopefully in your area there's something like that as well. Maybe you just decide to visit a friend or run an errand. Not anything that's going to stress you out more, but just something to get out of the house can be helpful. Or maybe you have a friend come visit you. And then, of course, you also want to make sure you schedule that time alone with your partner. Maybe you do when the baby goes to bed, or maybe you have, a family member or friend come over and you guys go for a walk for an hour or something like that, just to get that time alone. You definitely want to avoid isolation. And if you're feeling like you don't want to be around people, make sure that you're reaching out to get help. If you're feeling like everything's so overwhelming, you definitely want to make sure that you're getting help for that. And you want to talk with your partner, talk with family and friends about how you're feeling. Ask other moms about their experiences, mothers that will share their realistic perspectives and be supportive. And like I mentioned before a little bit, attend a local support group for new moms can really be helpful. Sometimes it's just knowing that there's community is really helpful. And then again, this is another reason a daily powwow is so important, so that you and your partner can really talk about what each of your needs are, because they might have other needs. But you definitely want to be checking in with each other. So then number 4 is getting clear on a family routine. I know for me, prior to baby, things just used to be, at least in retrospect, easier. I mean, it's easier to go get groceries, clean the house, get a haircut, but now it just seems like everything is a negotiation and juggling of schedules. But you have to learn to work together. Things will be much smoother, but this takes constant communication and compromise, all based on your priorities. For instance, my husband and I pretty much have our roles in the household. Now, things are always coming up. Like my son started kindergarten in September, so we're going through major adjustment to our roles. But I usually make dinner, and my husband usually does the dishes. And he also has always done baths before bed, too. But when my daughter was born a year and a half ago, there was definitely more to do, and as much as I would have loved for him to still be doing the dishes and the bathing, I know that if I want to spend any time with him in the evening, I should probably help with some of those things. So now it has been working where I usually do the dishes, and he gets time to play with my kids before, with our kids, I should say, before it's time for them to get ready for bed, and then we alternate who gets which child ready for bed. So now, frankly, I'm not a fan of doing dishes, and we live in an old house that doesn't have a dishwasher, so you can imagine how fun that is at times. But there are certain things I consider. First of all, it's important for me that our kids get good quality time with their dad. And it's important for me to get quality time with my husband. Now, that doesn't happen every night, because there's times that I fall asleep before he does, even comes to bed. And there's times when we just want to relax and watch a television show that we both enjoy, and I usually fall asleep. Or there are things that we have to make sure we get done around the house or for work. So I've determined that the pain it is for me to help with the dishes does not outweigh the importance of the things I've just mentioned. Plus, he sees it as me supporting him and helping him out. Just like the fact that he has helped me go over what I wanted to talk about for this webinar. And I see that as helping me. So he's definitely earned major points for that. So number 5 is, let's not compare ourselves to others. So this is a big one, and I'm definitely guilty of it myself. So do you have those friends on Facebook and Pinterest that seem to have it all together? Let me reassure you that they are not that perfect. And I've told this following story before, and every time I do, I have someone that tells me a similar story. And it actually makes me sad that we do this to ourselves, but here it goes. I met with some friends recently that I had met back when my son was born, and we were attending a mom's group through a local hospital. But one of the moms seems to post all these wonderful, what I call glamour shots, and trips to the beach, Disneyland, you name it. She's probably been there this last year. And we recently were visiting this group of moms, all of us together, and someone even mentioned about how it seems like she's always doing something so fun. But to my surprise, and I'm positive to the surprise of the other moms, she got a sad look in her eye and shared that she was actually struggling a great deal in her marriage. And her hope is that if she believes it enough, things will get better. So she posts these ideal pictures to somehow convince herself that everything really is good as it looks. So some of the other things that I remember about this group of moms back when the boys were really tiny, I remember how some of them seemed to have it all together and would come and go from the group with ease. So we would meet for play dates and they all never seemed to forget things. Like once I had everything in my diaper bag, but actual diapers. And they never seemed tired or to doubt their skills as mothers or the choices they were making. And as we were reminiscing about our boys when they were babies and the things I kept hearing them all say was, I don't remember that happening, or I was so exhausted back then, or I felt all alone, like I didn't know what I was doing. And my husband and I are still struggling to get our relationship back together. The funny thing is back then, none of us talked about those challenges. It was as if we were all trying to act like we had it all together. And it was such a relief to actually start being real and admitting that this motherhood thing is hard. And yet this was the first time I actually felt connected with these women as moms and friends. Real moms with relationship challenges, mom challenges, and just overall life challenges. So remembering that everything is not what it seems. Each parent has their own strengths, and it's okay if you don't have the same ones as another parent, as the one posting these picture perfect things on Pinterest. You are perfect for your child. So number 6 is find ways to meet each other's needs of feeling loved. It's so important to feel like you're connected with your partner, especially when you're embarking on such a huge adventure as having a baby. There's so many ups and downs, and they're the ones you depend on to help you get through this. So did you know that research actually suggests that identifying support needs with expectations of new moms is important for a mom's recovery after childbirth? There are some things that could be done differently to help you be connected and actually feel connected with your partner. So having a satisfied relationship is about connecting with your partner and choosing to what they call turn towards instead of turning away. That boils down to the fact that you have to make an effort, even when you don't feel like it, even when you're tired, and you've gotta reach out to your partner. And I'm not talking about having some gourmet dinner waiting for them when they arrive home, but simple things like giving them a hug when they come home, or maybe even just acknowledging to them and asking how their day was. And it's so funny, I've talked about this before, is I have this article from Housekeeping Monthly back in May of 1955, and it was called the Good Wife's Guide. And there's like several different tips on how to actually be a good wife. And so some of them I find really funny, but one of them is like, prepare yourself. Take 15 minutes to rest so you'll be refreshed when he arrives. Touch up your makeup, put a ribbon in your hair, and be fresh looking. He's been with a lot of work-weary people, and I think to myself, my poor husband, I would have failed in 1955 because I'm lucky if I put makeup on days I don't go to work. And a ribbon in my hair, I'm usually not even clean, so that wouldn't probably happen either. So I definitely don't look refreshed when he arrives, and sometimes I'm just like, help me, I'm exhausted from the day. So it's just kind of funny. So another one is arrange his pillow and offer to take off his shoes, speak in a low, soothing, and pleasant voice. Another one is don't ask him questions about his actions or question his judgment or integrity. Remember, he is the master of the house, and as such will always exercise his will with fairness and truthfulness. You have no right to question him. And I think how things have changed now is that, you know, there is a more equality and we support each other and we both have to make efforts to connect. turning towards each other and supporting each other. So I think some of the ones on this list that could be helpful are, one is be happy to see him. I'm happy to see my husband because I'm like, thank God you're finally home. Or greet him with a warm smile and show sincerity in your desire to please him. Might take off that last part, but definitely be, like how, what can you guys do to help each other out to make things easier this evening? So then another way is, again, to make that effort. For example, you can put your arms around him, give a compliment, and wait while they do something similar. This is what we call speaking their love language. We all give and receive love in different ways, and when you learn how your partner best receives love and you give them the love that way, it'll result in improvement in your relationship as well. So can you see how implementing some of these tools, like turning towards your partner, reaching out and asking for what you need, what they need, and working together and compromising can really help you cope with the challenges that come up and see that you're not alone and you feel support and helping you in dealing with stress? And while we're all capable of implementing change, when we have support to do so, we're much more confident, and then accountability can help us improve our relationship drastically. And it's not just new parents that are learning this stuff. Even parents who've been around the block a few times have room to improve their relationship. In fact, with each new addition to your family, you're presented with new challenges. But if you lay that solid foundation, it really helps you cope and stay together. Sorry. So if you're interested and committed to improving your relationship, keeping it healthy, feeling connected and in love with your partner, I'm offering a free initial 30-minute relationship reboot. And in this session, we'll build that awesome vision for your relationship that includes who you are as parents, but leaves room for you to be the people that each of you fell in love with in the first place. So this plan is about finding something that works for you and your partner. So be sure to click on the happywithbae.com/rockin-relationship-reboot-session to request your free consultation session. I'll also send you an email with that link too, so if you didn't catch that and you're just listening. But because at the end of the day, if you build that solid relationship with your partner, you're teaching your children how to have a solid relationships, from communication, tackling stress, relying on each other, expressing your love towards each other. All of it is a life lesson for your children and their future. Your relationship matters to not only to you and your partner, but also your children, and this is such important stuff. That's why I'm doing this, because I know how hard it is when a baby comes home. I know the struggles of finding your footing, not only as a parent, but as a partner now with a child. So I really want you to commit as a couple of making sure that you take care of your relationship so that you can in turn take care of your family. And like I said before, over 70% of couples report marital dissatisfaction that first year after baby comes home, and it doesn't automatically get better when they turn 1 year. Up to 67% of couples report a decline in their relationship satisfaction over the first 3 years. So I want to give you more tools that are relevant specifically to you and your partner so that you don't have to be one of those statistics. Well, I definitely want to thank you guys for joining me today, and I want to open up now to questions and answers. So you can just type your questions in the box there to the left and send them directly to me, and I'll answer them here. If you're not comfortable, I know sometimes people aren't comfortable pushing for it to send everyone, but you can have it send just to the presenters, and then I just see what the question is. I've already had some people sign up for consults, and I'm so glad that you're taking care of yourselves. So be sure to snag one yourself. Like I said, it's free, and I want it to be realistic how many people I can talk to and give my full attention to in the next few days. So don't wait to sign up for one. Any questions from anybody? No questions today? All right. Well, even if you have a question afterwards and you want to, feel free to just respond to any of my emails, and I would be happy to speak with you and answer any questions that you might have. So like I said, thanks again for joining me today. It was a pleasure being here. I had a lot of fun, enjoyed speaking with you guys, and like I said, if you can join me, I have another webinar coming up next month about the myths of motherhood. So I'll be sending out an email about that and posting something on Facebook. So if you haven't already joined me on there, go ahead and it's facebook.com happy with baby, and you can get any new webinars I have. Plus I like to do a lot of friendly, mom friendly, dad friendly posts of articles I find or funny little quotes and stuff. So, all right, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day and look forward to talking to you soon. Take care. Bye.